Join the conversation. Follow Jason on Twitter. And don't forget to visit the live show fan page on Facebook.
There's an article here from Fox News says that for some of the middle class, a tax plan would mean a tax increase. President-elect Donald Trump proposals would modestly cut income taxes for most middle-class Americans, but for nearly 8 million families, including a majority of single-parent homes, the opposite would occur. They'd pay more. While middle-class families as a whole would receive a tax cut of about 2%, that would be dwarfed by the windfall average 13.5% reduction for America's richest 1%. Now, this article is written to make you worry about the middle class getting their tax cut. But instead of debating the specifics of a tax plan that doesn't exist yet, I thought that I would use this as a teaching opportunity. Anyone who's reading this article and is concerned about what the tax plan is going to look like for Donald Trump is completely missing the boat. Because I'm going to tell you, what Donald Trump wants to do is he wants to create $1 trillion of new spending. $1 trillion with a T. That's been part of his platform for a long time. And he wants to offer tax cuts. Now, let me ask you a question, guys. How do you cut taxes and increase spending by $1 trillion? How do you do that? How do you make less money? Government doesn't really make less money. But let's say that they speak as though they do. How do you make less money and increase your spending? Now, if you own a home or run a household, you know that's just not possible. And somebody out there saying, laugh or curve, they're screaming at their radio right now. Laugh or curve, Jason, laugh or curve. No, what the laugh or curve says is that there's a sweet spot where you get tax revenue, and tax revenue is maximized. And if your taxes get too high, you get less taxes. But if you reduce taxes to a certain level, then you get this optimum balance of taxes and revenue. Nobody knows where that delicate balance is, but the Laffer curve illustrates that it's possible that there's a space in there where it works. This is what I'm telling you. If he is going to increase spending by $1 trillion, everybody's getting a tax increase. Everybody. If he increases regulation, everybody's getting a tax increase. You say, well, how does that work? Well, a couple of different ways. Number one, if he borrows the money, you're going to have to pay that back, or your children's going to have to pay it back with interest. If he prints the money, you're going to pay for it through inflation, through the devaluation and the erosion of your savings. If he decides that he's going to raise taxes on one group of people, like the rich, then guess what happens? They pass that tax increase on to you. Let's say they raise the middle class taxes instead. Guess what happens then? Then we get less consumer spending, which means we get less consumption. If we tax the rich again and they have less, maybe they don't pass that on to you. Maybe they just choose to invest a little bit less in their own companies because they have a little less profit to invest. That in turn means no expansion or less expansion than we would see otherwise. See, Democrats is the wrong word. Progressives understand this intuitively, right? What's been their biggest reason for raising the taxes on cigarettes?
It stops the behavior.
Stops the behavior, right? It's a sin tax. We don't want people smoking. It's bad, so let's raise the taxes. We know that everything we tax, we get less of.
But the same principle doesn't hold true to, say, labor.
No, obviously not. No, that's really the way they think.
Mm-hmm.
They understand that we get whatever we tax, we get less of, except when it comes to taxing the rich. Because the rich just have all this extra money laying around and they'll just pay the extra taxes. There's always going to be rich in America. It's not going to affect the economy. In fact, it's going to be a good thing to tax the rich. It's foolish. Anyone who looks at it logically is going to recognize the hypocrisy in what they're doing. But I can promise you, if Donald Trump gets the increases in spending, and he likely will, because he's got a Republican House and a Republican Senate, There's nothing to stop them. The last time we had the House and the Senate, guess what we got? Massive expansion, massive new debt. What do you think we're going to get this time? I would be shocked if the debt doesn't continue to rise at an astronomical rate. If he doesn't get every single thing that he wants in a spending bill, I'd be shocked. Because there's just nothing to stop him. And if he gets it, everybody's taxes are going to go up. They're going to go up through reduced opportunity. They're going to go up through inflation. They're going to go up through direct tax. There are half a dozen different ways that you can, through regulation. Regulation is a tax. It costs something to conform to regulation. All of those things are going to be an increase to you, to your family, to what it costs you to exist in society. The only thing that's going to save us is if we come to terms with the fact that what we have is a massive amount of debt and that we have been living far beyond our means for far too long. And if we want to change, we're going to have to make some very tough decisions that are going to put us in a precarious situation for a few years to come. There is no easy way out of this. There are no good choices. There are only bad choices. And anybody who tells you something different is lying to you. Until tomorrow, guys, be safe, be good. I'll talk to you then.